society makes us the way we are. You know, where I was having a coffee one time and I saw a guy sitting there with his two kids. They were texting while he was sitting there looking around, you know. That's not happiness, you know. Too much of that, eh? Well, I worked with the RHA Mental Health Services for the Elderly, worked with the province, became a prolific coffee drinker, working for the government, and then we transferred over to the RHA when Brandon Mental Health Center closed. Yeah, and that's how I made my living. Did a lot of music, you know. And didn't make a lot of money, but did okay. Yeah, yeah. But it's been pretty good. You know, I made a pretty good living on working and all that. Well, lately I'm retired now, about 8 years now, and I worked in the community with the activities with the mental health services for the elderly. When the Brandon Mental Health Center closed up, I worked at Brandon Mental Health Center before that on the wards as a nursing attendant, and worked hard there, and I really enjoyed that. You know, got to meet a lot of interesting people and nice people too. You know, worked with staff there that I became friends with and maintained friendships with. So, but toward the end, they closed up Brandon Mental Health Center, and there was a move to put people in the community, and some of these people just didn't have the skills to even say make a grocery shopping list. So that was part of my job, was to get people ready to go out into the community. I'm friendly with people, and I can get a lot out of people just from being friendly. You know, they'll open up and tell me things, and always been that way. Like working with myself in the community, had to deal a lot with not just the client, but the families. You know, you're dealing with families who are just devastated that something like this has happened to their family, you know, and try to ease what they're feeling, eh? You know, never saying I know what you're going through. No, it's not the way to do it. You know, just listen and, you know, show empathy toward people. I do teach a course now with mental health services with the RHA. It's called Nonviolent Crisis Intervention, and that's sort of telling people how to listen to people, how to respond to people. You know, our job is not to be a heavy with somebody because they got a mental illness, you know, just to help them and work with them. Eh? I like to talk to people. Go have a coffee. I just love to sit and meet people and have coffee, you know. You know, use those free Tim Horton tabs of mine. But yeah, no, just to meet people. It's interesting. If I don't want to meet anybody, I don't bother, you know. But on the whole, I enjoy meeting people. Okay, surprising how doing stuff in your life, you meet people, and it's just like there's been no gap there. You just continue talking like that, you know. I went to school in Alonsa. So our phys ed was chasing the cattle out of the yard, and you know, things like that. It was a farm community, all Ukrainian people, and my mom and dad married, and I moved into the Alonsa district and learned some of the not so good Ukrainian words, but I got along real good with everyone there. You know, I wasn't brash, or I wasn't argumentative. You know, I just went with the flow, just like I do now. I was quiet, a thinking kid, quiet. You know, always respectful for people. I didn't get into any trouble. You know, me and my brother, we very much respected my mom. We didn't question her whenever she said something. You know, yeah. Like I was raised with the Métis a lot of times, and there were certain things, you know, I seen things that I didn't really care for. You know, it was could be harsh, but you know, I never wanted to be that way. So it carried right through my life. You know, worked hard and worked like a dog, and you know, behaved myself. But there's sides to it too that you just as soon forget. You see ugliness there too. You know, like to me, the ugliness is there's no checks for somebody to go on the wrong track. There's nobody to put them back on track to say, hey, cut that out. We saw that in the 60s, you know. There was a lot of drug abuse, and there was nobody to stop these people, to tell them. As long as you made the money, they didn't care what you did, you know. I learned to play guitar when I was 4. I used to get to go to all these adult parties because I could sing about heartbreak, love, and going to jail and everything, and I was 4 years old, you know, Hank Williams, you know. But that's how I got started, and then just, it's been a way of life. To me, it's you know, like you guys, you work all day like this, and it's something, a diversion, something that's a little different. You need that, otherwise something will give way if you don't have that diversion. It could be something like bodybuilding or anything like that. You got to have that. And mine is music, you know. I've always had that, and I like the way it makes people feel, you know. Like, I know it makes people laugh lots when I'm playing. Surrey just asked me if I would go and work casual for them. So I said, yeah. I never did like to wear a tie, but I just go in and I fix guitars, amplifiers, and do sales, and just stand around and tell some BS, you know. It's funny how many people come, and when you treat them respectfully and decently, they trust everything you say to them. I taught judo for a lot of years, and judo was something that we taught. They taught us how to be respectful of people. You know, you walk into the dojo and you leave your problems on the doorstep and pick them up if they're still there on the way back. The whole thing was, it's funny, there was such a serenity of that, and it taught people to work extremely hard, but also to respect everyone that you came in contact with. And that carries over a long ways, you know. Music did the same thing to me, respect people. Like, the unwritten rule of music is to never laugh at somebody that's playing, you know. And I'm thankful for that. But you know, you don't laugh at somebody. If they could be the worst player in the world, but you sit there and listen to them and don't laugh at them, you know. And that's a good for life. That's a good philosophy to have, you know. Just don't laugh at people, you know. But you know, I find them pretty easy to get along with them, you know. Satisfaction, and how fulfillment and satisfaction. You know, you may not be, I may not be the richest guy in the world, but if I'm satisfied with the way I conducted myself and didn't hurt anybody and helped somebody, that's happiness, you know. Being with family at at special times, that's all happiness. There's a whole bunch of things, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean money, but that's why I do music. It doesn't have to be money, you know. I got a granddaughter named Bella. She'd be 5.5. And very special little girl. And got a little grandson named Addison. He's coming 2 years old next month. So both special, you know, really special. You can. It's hard to imagine that your kids have these kids, you know, and they still see them as your babies yet, and there they are, you know, yeah. And it's funny how the little kids, they pick up, like, I was sitting the other day with my no shirt on, and my little Addison, little wee 2-year-old said, "Papa, brown to get my stomach." So I threw him out of the house. But yeah, so, you know, it's funny how they pick up, you know, and their little habits, you know, they're wonders to behold, I'll tell you. Just work hard and respect people. Try to be happy in your life, you know. Try to be happy. In my line of work, I've seen people who weren't happy, and it caught up to them, you know, and just to try and be happy and work hard. Go to school, you know, get some schooling or some training and do things like that, you know, and the world is there. Make the most of it, you know.